Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the big fish in the free agency market, John Tavares signing with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now the whole charade on Twitter was hashtag Tavares watch. A lot of people ended up staying till midnight, going throughout the morning, waiting to see where John Tavares will go. And of course he didn't sign after midnight, so we knew that the Islanders were not in it as much as we thought they were. And of course this morning, while I was at church, he ends up being signed to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Tavares is from Ontario. He is a childhood Leafs fan, and of course has been with the New York Islanders organization for about 10 years now. So a lot of us thought that of course he was going to stay with New York. And one of the key things from the last few years of free agents like this, like John Tavares, the big example I go back to is Steven Stamkos, as where we all thought he was going to the Toronto Maple Leafs, obviously, but he ends up staying with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Not the same instance, but still pretty similar. So again, I was in big shock for him to go to Toronto, to actually not stay with his original team. The Islanders aren't the Tampa Bay Lightning of what was 2016. They're a lot different of a team, but I feel like it was the same similar situation to where I was surprised when John Tavares ended up leaving, even if we knew that he was going to. But of course, he was a childhood Leafs fan. I can't help but feel like that had something to do with it. Even on his Twitter, he posted that he was a lifelong Leafs fan, and I feel like it didn't have a ton to do with it, but I think it had a little bit to do with it. Him returning to his hometown, him returning back to his home team. This season with the New York Islanders, he played 82 games, had 37 goals, 47 assists for 84 points. He had a Corsi For percentage of 49.4, and he had a solid year, had a very good year, and of course he was healthy, which was the biggest thing for him. He hasn't had the best track record of health, even though he's not one of the worst guys out there. He definitely needed to have a healthy season right before his UFA period, so it was really important that he had a healthy season, and he definitely had a great one. And of course, Toronto Maple Leafs have been in the rumors to get him for a while, through trade, through free agency, whatever. They've been in the mix for a while, so having them sign him is not one of the biggest surprises you'll see. But of course, we saw this whole rumor wave of, I think it was 6 teams that were in the mix of him. Of course, you had the Dallas Stars, you had the Toronto Maple Leafs, you had the Boston Bruins, Tampa Bay Lightning, you had the San Jose Sharks, and of course the New York Islanders. There was a lot of teams that were in the mix, and some of them were pretty unrealistic, the Tampa Bay Lightning for sure. But you had some teams that were definitely in there, and Toronto would definitely be up there for me. Sure, it depends on what Matthews goes for, what Nylander goes for, what Marner goes for, but I feel like those three can definitely stay along with Tavares. They'll have to make some moves, and the defense will kind of be, the second resort, but I feel like they can definitely keep that top three together, along with John Tavares. It's definitely possible. Especially with the cap going up, I feel like they'll have an easier job every single year with sustaining that top four of that forward, that just absolutely lethal top 4 forwards that they have in that organization now. Of course, they got Marner, Nylander, Matthews, and Tavares. Absolutely just stellar. It's going to take that defense a little bit of a step back because they have John Tavares. I don't know if Gardner will be able to stay. I don't think that he will unless he takes a hometown discount, kind of like Tavares did. We'll have to wait and see, but that defense will definitely take a step back just because they can't afford all these guys. But what made the Toronto Maple Leafs so interesting and how they can sustain this is because of how good their AHL system is and how many of those prospects they have coming up. With the Pittsburgh Penguins, they have all those explosive forwards, all those explosive defensemen, and the great goaltenders there. And the reason that they are able to sustain that is they're able to fill those stars around with cheap, guys and great prospects around them that they've been developing throughout the whole years. And Toronto is on set to do that. They have amazing farm system with lots of guys that can step up next season, and they're set. They have a lot of guys that can fill in for cheap, and Toronto keeps doing that. They keep putting these guys through, and that'll definitely help them in the future of just surrounding these guys with cheap guys that they don't have to pay too much for. And people do make a good point that if you're going to go for free agency, you might as well go for the big guys, because if you're paying a lot for depth guys, what's really the point? I mean, you just get guys for the draft and you're set. And that's what Toronto has been doing. They were able to get these guys that are seemingly NHL ready and just using them as asset management, and guys that don't have that contract already. It definitely is great cap management of what Toronto is able to do, and I think they will be able to do. Maybe they'll have to let go of some guys, possibly Kadri, Gardner, but they will be able to sustain that lethal forward core right now. I feel like they'll be able to sustain complete success. With Toronto, I never got the whole argument that they can't afford Tavares, because honestly they can. They'll have to work some things out, but with their farm system, with all the guys that can come up and fill those spots without taking too much money, they can definitely afford this. It'll be cheap, it'll be across the line, but if they can get some success, they can definitely afford this, and I feel like it'll be no problem. And the Toronto Maple Leafs next year could be absolutely devastating. I remember when I said that, Gardner and Kadri might be leaving. Yeah, they're still on the team now. Unless we see some moves, that team is going to be absolutely ridiculous next season. And as Toronto Maple Leafs being my fourth favorite team, I'm really liking what they're shaping up to be next season. The defense might take a little bit of a step back, but that offense, man, if it's not the best in the league, it better be damn close. And for me, it always made sense for the Leafs to go after Tavares with what they were trying to build. It definitely felt like it was a good fit, and just what Tavares has been building throughout his career, it just feels like a good fit that, of course, Toronto, I think, can sustain. And I feel like with their cap, it's not as bad as people are maybe thinking. They have to make some moves because of this, but it's not detrimental to their cap. They can definitely work around this. The prospect that they have coming up, it'll just make it even more lethal when they have guys like Kapanen not even on, NHL contracts, just filling in and playing like top six guys. It's going to be super scary to see what they are next season and how lethal they really are. Because I think Tavares doing already amazing offense just makes everything scary about what Toronto Maple Leafs can accomplish next season. Of course, I haven't even talked about the contract yet. He signs for 7 years at $11 million per year. And to me, I feel like this is a little bit of a discount for him, and it sets the bar for a lot of free agents going into 2019 and 2020. The John Tavares, this signing is one of the biggest that we've seen for a while, and towards the Toronto Maple Leafs, this definitely is a good deal for him and for the Toronto Maple Leafs, I feel. 7 years, not that bad. I feel like that's pretty good for him. And $11 million, pretty fair, honestly. I mean, Drew Doughty got that, and I'd say that he's the defenseman, he's the John Tavares of defenseman, so I feel like around here is definitely what he was worth. I feel like the New York Islanders were going to give him like a $12 or maybe $13 million. I feel like he's taking a little bit of discount to stay or to go to Toronto, but I feel like it's a solid deal and one that makes a lot of sense and is pretty fair. To me, to both sides, this makes sense. I probably would have said the Sharks over the Toronto Maple Leafs, but it definitely makes sense for what Toronto was building, what John Tavares was heading towards, and I feel like there's going to be a pivotal point for John Tavares and Toronto Maple Leafs. If they're able to get the Stanley Cup, it would definitely make the most sense to do it now. And to me, this signing just screams yes. It screams a new excitement for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and again, more offense, which they might not need, but it'll definitely bolster that offense, an offense that didn't really need it. The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be the best offensive team next season. If they're not, I'd be really surprised. Defense, it's going to be worrying to see if they can adapt to that, what guys they can bring up after that, but they got solid prospects in the defensive core going into the next seasons with John Tavares. It just worries me a little bit that they're putting a little bit too much into forwards, but whatever works. But John Tavares, the contract makes sense. For Toronto Maple Leafs, it makes sense. Everything here makes sense, and honestly, a lot of people saw it happening, and it ended up happening. I feel like this is a good sign for both squads, or both sides here, and I feel like John Tavares will definitely work with Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, the offense is going to be explosive, and I just can't wait to see how that offense just runs through every defense they have, because honestly, this offense is just too lethal. So one, I'm just really excited for what Toronto's future will be with John Tavares, what that offensive future will be with John Tavares. Just the contract in general, I feel like it's a very good bargain and a very good signing for both sides here. I feel like both sides will definitely get a massive, massive haul from this. So that's going to be it for today, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, tell me down below what you think of this signing. John Tavares going to the Toronto Maple Leafs, the biggest signing of this free agency class. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.